can we identify those things through a query in our SignWorks database? Perhaps that's something that, again, I was going to speak to the IT team and our colleague to see if we have that granular level of detail.
Yep.
And I think that on a citywide basis, like every project that we every project that we embark on is, again, going to bring those blocks and those compliance standards, even if the project itself wasn't intended to do so. It kind of like, will be packaged in with that.
Yeah.
So those are three ways that we are addressing, or we'll seek to address that proactively.
Yep.
And I'll keep brainstorming for others.
Yeah, I think those are all good, and others feel free to jump in as well. I think those are all good, and I'm glad they're happening. But I think just given that the we're not moving curves. There's like these aren't like it doesn't need to go to the engineering team. There doesn't even need to be a notice of intent that goes out to comply. So like it's just moving signs. That's where I'm like really hoping that we can actually just come up with like some city, like some proactive way. Maybe that's the sign database. That would be fantastic. If there's like, if that can be queried and we can just say, okay, these are the whatever 300 locations where we just need to move the sign back. Like that would be really good. But yeah, just some way, or maybe it's like a summer intern just like walking around and like and doing measurements and going about it that way. It doesn't just some way, because like the consequences of getting this wrong is horrific, and the ability for us to change is actually quite like there's just great payoff in doing this. So that's why we wanted to like really kind of hone in on this particular issue.
Understood.
So yeah, that's it. And then actually the other piece too is that if we can add in some like so there's the moving the sign is kind of part one. That's like keeping the government in line, like, or government just kind of following the regs. That's great. But then as we know, like a lot of people disregard the sign, and when they'll park right up against the crosswalk, for example, even when the sign says you're not allowed to. Is there like kind of some systematic thing that we're doing to harden daylighting, or to like keep it like how, because I know we're doing it in a bunch of places, which is great, but how are the decisions being made around when we should put planters in, or bike racks in, or scooter corrals in, or just something that keeps people from making a street unsafe?
Yeah, that's managed by a different team. I think some of the folks in the traffic safety administration are identifying high crash locations where they are seeking to harden the temporary bulb outs. So those projects are assessed and prioritized based on the safety criteria. So that's done by another team. And the corrals are placed based on demand for corrals or assessed need for corrals. So those are managed by like the bike parking team, and the corral sort of sustainable transportation programs branch team. So those are and then there's not quite hardening, but like art projects in the roadway of kind of creating placemaking in some of these temporary bulb outs, which are often bordered by those flexible flex posts that sort of stick up, that if you're a large enough truck or an ambulance, you can drive over them, but a normal, not like a passenger car or a passenger car driver is a little wary of messing their car up by driving over those. So those usually perform the desired goal of of keeping people out of that space.
Yeah.
I actually have a question about all those features, and maybe we should invite uh, the team uh, who leads that about that, about how those decisions are made. There's a couple in my neighborhood that seem to be more obstructive than helpful,
Mm.
like places where maybe an older adult would want to pull get dropped off on the curb can't because of these areas. So I just want to kind of balance the places where we need them for safety versus in a quiet neighborhood like myself. I've never seen any like accident or terrible thing there. So I'm wondering if that's more of a accessibility barrier than a safety uh, assist. So I don't know the answer. I'm just kind of putting it out there as some of the places I've seen it. It's been, and I've seen buses run over them when they're trying to make a turn. So, I'm not sure if that was the right decision in that particular spot, and I just don't know how those decisions are made.
And actually, to kind of piggyback off of what Kelly's saying too, is so like we've talked a lot about accessible drop off. And I don't want to kind of fully veer off this, but like so a lot of the drop off locations. So in order to get up onto a curb, like there needs to be a curb cut. So mid-block curb cuts that are small actually are very, very useful. So like, accessible PUDO zones with mid-block curb cuts, not for a car, obviously, but for a wheelchair, like provide a huge amount of usability and really help people out. Like, is that something that like, where is that like discussion? Where is that discussion on your team?
We do have ADA, parking. But well, let me back up and say we're taking a close look at the PROAG, which has been introduced, and we're socializing it internally within our agency so that we know as as the engineering safety techs and our bike planners are aware of the direction that we're going to be moving into, and to try to figure out how we can incorporate those designs moving forward, and aware that that's what the direction that we're headed in as a whole. So that those PROAG the sort of design guidance and our own like ADA parking guidance is being incorporated. So I think in an urban context for citing ADA parking, we're looking to leverage existing curb cuts wherever possible, just for the sake of just feasibility. So where there are ADA accessible ramps in mid-block, I think that's a great opportunity. Where they're not, then we're going to, leverage the curb cuts at the corner. And if there are opportunities in new development or in roadway reconstruction, like we'll try to leverage those to add additional locations for that accessibility mid-block. So um, that's where we are currently. We're getting up to speed, sharing it, and trying to leverage as much as possible to meet the guidance and the standards.
We are also, just to FYI, we'll send more of this once we actually finalize it, but we are also working on a document that's about prioritizing street space. And one of our highest, so as of right now, that goes, so kind of our top three, or actually our top four in order are high quality sidewalks, then transit, high capacity transit lanes, and then accessible PUDOs, accessible only PUDOs, and then protected bike lanes, and then Pudo zones. So that's we don't have this finalized yet, but we're working on it, and we'll send that to you. But accessible Pudos are a big deal, because that with a mid-block accessible Pudo, like if we, I don't think we have any accessible Pudos right now, or accessible only Pudos, but that is something that we'd love to see. And actually, sorry, Adrian, sorry, you raised your hand earlier. Go ahead.
That's no problem. I have some pressing matters I got to take care of, so I can't stay the whole meeting. But I did want to work on that idea that we discussed. I just wanted to get some clarification. It was about the not necessarily legislation, but like something to write about the criminal type aspects of some of the
enforcement.
I'd like to try to work on that, but I want to make sure I know exactly what it is that you want to do, because then I got to run after that.
Yep. So Laura's leaving at 6:15, and we can shift into our enforcement discussion right after that. If you can hold on until then.
Okay.
But yeah, so Kelly, go ahead.
I think you actually covered what I was going to say, is that the accessible Pudos are super duper important. And, right now when I don't drive. And so my primary methods of transportation are bus and taxi or ride share. And so when I get picked up and dropped off, a lot of times I'm, they're kind of sneaking in at, the end of a corner, and I come off the ramp and get in the vehicle or deboard that way. So just thinking about like how we can like just envision having these spaces for people with disabilities to have access to get in and out of vehicles. Buses are my primary, but if I'm going to a concert, I like to have some other transportation options. So I just want to put that out there. And this came up last night at the Department for Hired Vehicle Accessibility Advisory Council, and the discussion was about taxis saying that they sometimes get ticketed or get enforcement actions for them for picking up and dropping off wheelchair users in these spaces, and that the understanding was that they're not supposed to be enforced for this specific rider group, but that they still experience that. So I'm wondering if some coordination, and this may not be your area, but maybe you could help us figure out who to coordinate with Department for Hired Vehicles to help smooth that out for taxi and rideshare, because they are providing a really important service for disabled people to be able to access our city.
Just for clarity, what are they getting ticketed for, or where are they getting ticketed?
So they were talking about areas near curb cuts where they are picking up and dropping off wheelchair users. So if I am...
So perhaps like a bus stop, are they complaining about the bus stop tickets or something else?
I wasn't a bus stop, but I think it might be in a lane. At the end of the lane where there is the ramp. So they're trying to put someone like me out where the ramp is, because that's where I can get up on the street, or on the sidewalk, I should say. But I think we need to ask the cab companies for more specifics and certain examples, but it was brought up as something that was an issue they still experience. And I don't know what kind of coordinate, like, is that DDOT enforcement? Is that some other,
Oh yeah, that is a question. I don't know. It could, and I don't know if they're referring to those. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So more information would be great to follow up. Yeah.
Right. So I think. And Olivia has her hand. Sorry, Olivia.
Yeah. Oh no, you're good, Kelly. I'll get with you and we'll remember. We can write that out for Jason at DFHV. I guess, Laura, just to segue a little bit off what Kelly was saying, my worry is all these protected bike lanes everywhere. And like I live on Connecticut Avenue and it was very contentious and that seems to be dead in the water for now. But my worry is they're taking the proposal, at least the concept C was they're like, oh, we're gonna take all the curb access and eliminate all the parking spaces on your side of Connecticut, but don't worry, there'll be some kind of drop-off zone across the other side of this major thoroughfare in rush hour where you might be able to get your Uber. And so I guess the question is, how do we balance the needs of the bicyclists with the needs of people with disabilities? And how do we make the curbs really accessible for everyone? Because some people may not be able to go a half a block or a block to a Pluto, So how do we kind of balance these competing needs? And I also think about my guide dog when you're talking about the daylighting, because she's very low to the ground. Someone might not see her. That would be terrible.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think that for the Connecticut Avenue, just like in general, there is a concerted level of community outreach, even on a block by block basis. So there should be, and there is an intentional effort to create those opportunities for those conversations to inform the design. And I think it's something that is a growing awareness within like all of our planning units and the curbside management team that this is a significant much like freight, you can't just dismiss it. Like it's
Right,
integral.
exactly.
It's integral to our transportation network. So
Yeah.
balance is a tough one in a place where there's constrained space and right of way. So I do think it's impossible to make everyone happy in a constrained environment, but I think that those informed conversations are the key to understanding how to prioritize that space. So, I guess that's my answer is that I actually saw that you had a resolution wanting to sort of be able to advise on capital projects, and I think that that's trying to formalize something that DDOT is internally trying to formalize as well, is making sure that that understanding and awareness and conversations are happening on that planning level.
Yeah, that would be, and I'm happy to help as well, because I just feel like sometimes the solutions aren't accessible to us. They're great for bikers, but they don't, and bike lanes also scare me because I can't see the bikes, I can't hear them coming, so I need to be able to unload somewhere where I know that my guide dog and I are going to be safe and that some bike going too fast isn't going to take me out.
Yeah, and some of these are more like, we've got like they're kind of nuanced positions too, in the sense that like, so we've talked about protected bike lanes before, and at least like kind of from my perspective, when they're bicyclists or scooter riders, like if they don't feel safe on the road, then they'll terrorize people on the sidewalk, and that's something that Adrian's brought up a good enough, or kind of a lot, and that's something that really want to get people, like we want to separate really by speed, like slow on the sidewalk where people are walking slowly, then faster in some sort of lane that is not multi-ton vehicles that are driving 40 miles an hour, like bikers or scooter riders are not going to ride in the road. They're going to ride fast on the sidewalk, and that's terrible for everybody. So figuring out
that's bad too.
So figuring out some way of what the thing that is frustrating to me is that a lot of times people like who aren't disabled will claim like, oh, we're going to lose all this parking to protected bike lanes, where it's not about accessibility at all. It's just about their own parking, and just that's regular parking. And that's why I think kind of this something more nuanced, where it's like specifically accessible PUDOs and accessible parking, because that's a much smaller subset than the the world of parking. And that's where I think, like, if we can be thoughtful about like specific parking, like a specific, a reserved, at every, ideally at every block, maybe even multiple points at every block, a reserved spot for accessible PUDOs. I think that would be really good.
Yeah. How would it work for getting like an Uber from my building, say if the whatever is blocking, like that's my main way of transportation right now is the TNCs. I guess like how would you get from how would that work if the curb in front of your building's blocked with the bike lane or
Right.
the barrier or whatever? And you don't want to be too far from where you have to be either. So I guess how does this work?
Yeah, I mean, I think like so, we have a lot of, so we've got a lot of curbside parking, and that's being blocked by curbside parked vehicles that are non-disabled, like just regular parked vehicles, and that's blocking pickup and drop off activity. So that's where I think like if we can get, ideally, like we have some way of making accessible only PUDOs that work with bike lanes. That would be kind of the ideal scenario, where it's not, where like streets aren't being clogged by just like generic vehicles, but instead, like, we're prioritizing people who actually like really need curb access, and that's accessible only to people who actually need it. So I don't know, that's just kind of throwing out there, and that might make your job, that nuance, at least for me, I'll just speak for myself, like that nuance for Laura, like you're getting hit on all sides, there's so many different kind of curbside uses, like, but that nuance to like make it specifically about accessibility, accessible PUDOs, and rather than just kind of generic parking that just sits there. Like, I think that I would be thrilled to involve ourselves in that.
I'd be happy to help too. One other question, I'll go away. I rely a lot on first responders because I have a lot of other health issues besides being blind, and they have to come up to my building and get me and take me to Sibley. So that was my other question, is if the curbs are blocked, how do they go about their activities?
Yeah. So this is something that, like, I have a feeling we'll have. So we've got a street space prioritization document that we're working on, but eventually we'll also hopefully have a curbside prioritization document too. So when we have that, we'd be thrilled to have you back, Laura, and we can kind of
actually that'd be great. Also, just to sort of give you a heads up, we created the department developed a curbside management like typology that you might have back in 2014. And it prioritized curbside uses based on land use and based on the existing sort of programming options. So, in commercial areas, it's transit and commercial loading, and then, lowest priority was, or not possible was RPP kind of thing.
Right.
And our division has just launched an update. So in the next year, we will be updating the typology within sort of, revising our assessment of land uses and the available sort of curbside hierarchy that best matches those uses and, the growing and nuanced needs that we've accumulated or become aware of in the intervening years. So that process is underway, and I'm sure there's going to be opportunities to provide input on that. So stay tuned. We'll share updates when we have them, but it was literally just, I think, launched this week. So looking forward to sort of aligning those efforts.
Perfect. So I want to kind of respect your time. I know you said that you had to leave at 6:15. So so thank you for taking the time. The kind of major thing that we wanted to engage you on this time was our daylighting. So we'll send you the daylighting letter that.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Hey,
Yeah.
Prophet, could I ask Laura a quick question before she jumps off? And
Sure.
when she comes back, because I can ask my second question to you and the committee, the council. Laura, have we been taking feedback from the accessible community over the last couple of years as we put these mitigations and things in? Because this conversation is almost new to me. So have we been taking, as the city, have we been taking feedback from them? Because we hear from everybody. We hear from the elderly about access. We hear about parking, the parking people versus the bike people, but we don't really, I haven't been to too many meetings where we're listening to the accessibility committee. So where are we on the city as far as taking feedback?
That's a great question. I don't know if I can speak to it comprehensively. Perhaps Zach has.
I'll just say that we definitely take feedback. Again, as Laura stated, she's newer to this specific role within DDOT as the associate director of curbside, but we've had previous associate directors join us. We've had current team members join us. So we're trying to be responsive to the accessibility committee, hence why we're all here tonight at the MAC, and we also work in close collaboration with DFHV's Accessibility Advisory Committee. There's also Metro's Accessibility Advisory Committee, the Office of Disability Rights, also collaborates very closely with DDOT projects and staff members. So we're definitely working on making sure that we integrate those comments. But this will not be the last time you see Laura, hopefully. But I know she does have to jump.
Yes, thank you. It was nice to be introduced to you, and I look forward to following up and working with you.
Good to see you again, Laura. And
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you, Laura. It was
Thank
great
you,
to
Laura.
meet you.
Take care.
Prophet, my question to you and the council is, are they inviting you to the ANC meetings where we're having these very contentious conversations about bike lanes and flex posts and all those things like that? Those are the things that we're advocating for as ANC commissioners. And, I'm ashamed to say at this point that I haven't seen you folks on the agenda or weighing in. I mean, I haven't seen people from this committee or this council. So are you being invited in, and how? And if you're not, we have to make that happen. We need to hear from you as well, because I guess again, we hear from the elderly. We hear about parking. We hear about all of these everybody else pro and con, pro and against the bike lane. So where are you on that? The council and the panel.
Yeah, so so we passed a resolution. So I think we're just right now we're just 4 people. And we're hopefully we've got 2 more slots. So we're hoping but
I would love to take one of those slots if someone can tell me how.
yeah, totally. So yeah, so we just passed a resolution asking DDOT to include us on all capital projects, so kind of the major projects. So that's something that that's moving forward. I don't think that we'd be able to cover ANC meetings just because there are way too many of them every month for an all volunteer group. But we do want to be weighing in on the kind of major capital projects.
Okay, thanks. But maybe you could visit the caucus every now and then, the ANC caucus every now and then, and that way you can talk to commissioners and let the commissioners have that information to take back to their ANCs and single member districts.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're always open to engaging with other groups, especially when they coincide with our interests of just making sure that people with disabilities can get around as easily as anyone else can.
Thank you.
Adrian, go for it. Yes, I know you've got.
Yes, like I said, I just wanted to talk about that real quick because I really need to get out of here.
Yeah. So enforcement. So basically, I think so. We have a letter, or we have a draft document on our priorities. MAACDC.link / I believe it's priorities. Nope, that's not that. It's our draft document that is focused on draft principles of. So I'm going to put that put a link to that in the chat. That is being worked on. I think if we can come, so one, we want to finalize that pretty soon, ideally. Lizzie couldn't make this meeting, but hopefully we can finalize that when all four of us are here. I just put that in the chat. Ideally, we also have something like this for draft priorities for enforcement as well. So we have finite enforcement resources between towing vehicles at DPW, ATE cameras at DDOT, and also kind of criminal enforcement for criminal enforcement at MPD. So ideally, we can kind of come up with some sort of draft prioritization as it relates to transportation for enforcement.
So kind of mimic what I'm saying with the these other draft principles.
Exactly. It's like, how do we think about enforcement for transportation? Like, and I'm just speaking off the top. I haven't really like kind of made anything coherent, but like we probably want the craziest drivers off the road. Like, if you're DUIing, like you should not be driving, or if you have a history of going 90 miles an hour like on any street in DC, like you should never.
I don't really know how that correlates directly with what we're doing. That seems like something that you want to talk about in general, like the
just like
criminal law. I mean, what I mean is like, what we're doing here. So like the draft principles for transportation, space uses, or whatever. So I thought that we were sort of trying to do the same thing regarding like, because my thing's always been like the scooters, the bikes, and all that kind of
stuff. And I think that
those and what else, like outside of the scooters and the bikes, like what else would you want to have like something that's enforcement wise, or like that specifically deals with people with disabilities?
Yeah, so it's just like people, just in my mind, like people with disabilities are even more in danger of being run over by a car or a scooter or a bike. But like being being hit by a car that's speeding is going to be deadly. And from like in my mind, like getting that driver off the road is probably the most important thing. But then it's also like it could be very dangerous, and you could break legs or get run over and hit your head, and that's like really bad for scooters. And we want to make sure that like people who are recklessly driving their scooters there's also some enforcement there too. So just like kind of figuring out a prioritization framework for like, okay, these are the different types of vehicles that people drive, and this is how they drive them. And we've gotten certain laws on the books. How do we enforce them in a way that can keep us all safe, especially people with disabilities?
Yeah, because I think they should have already pretty strict laws. Like most states have pretty strict laws about drunk driving and things of that nature. I mean, because I think that's sort of like a general thing, like whether you're disabled or not, people that are drunk driving can cause serious harm or kill people regardless. Whether so I mean, I guess my thing is I'd rather focus like sort of on this. I mean, I can write that in there, but I mean to me, that's more like a general thing. I'd rather be more specific about what we're doing and sort of what we're talking about, especially like with people with disabilities. So like things about like you said, kind of penalties of maybe people don't drop people off in the right places or things of that nature. people with disabilities.
Yeah,
I think that's great. I think blocking, I think talking about parking illegally, blocking ramps.
yep,
I think talking about left turns and
yep,
that to me is a gray area where some places it's allowed but it's still dangerous.
yeah,
So I think all these places where people with disabilities are at higher risk on our streets and sidewalks are great places to highlight and flag.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So basically, like all of these things that like on kind of, I think we should just put in all of the things that kind of we get. Maybe just one way to start is just like start listing off like all of the things that that people do that are against the law, that make us feel unsafe, and or make us not just make us feel unsafe, but make us unsafe. Whether it's like parking in a crosswalk, blocking a ramp, riding their scooter recklessly on a sidewalk, or driving fast on a road. The reason I bring that up is that like that. So like there was one few years ago, we passed a joint resolution with the PAC in the back, after this lady who had like $18,000 of fines on her Lexus went like 100 miles an hour on Rock Creek Park and killed 3 people. Like that's the type of like that, yeah, like that stuff happens. But if we had had better enforcement, we could have taken that.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's more of a general thing in my mind. It's like because that affects healthy people, disabled people, anybody. Like if somebody's driving crazy, I don't care who you are. You could be darn near a bodybuilder and you still get killed by a drunk driver. I guess
Yeah.
my folks would really want to be on like how these things really affect people with disabilities, and
Yeah.
try to stay within that realm without going too broad and start talking about things that are more general and affect the public. That's just
Yeah.
my thought process.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm not opposed to splitting them out. It's just that I don't want to also lose focus on that just because. So, for example, like a speeding car, like someone might be able to jump out of the way, but like for me, I wouldn't be able to see that speeding car until it's closer. So I would have less reaction time to jump out of the way. Or like if you were on crutches, like you wouldn't be able to get out of the way as fast. So like that just everything that makes like dangerous driving dangerous for a regular person makes it even more dangerous for people with disabilities. So anyway, like, and I'm be happy to I think continue the conversation about like what should be included and what should not be. But maybe what we can just start off with is just like everybody. So maybe Adrian, if you want to just create a document and just start kind of writing like kind of bullet points of like, hey, these are things that are happening that make us unsafe. That and then we can start thinking about prioritization.
Okay.
And
All
then
right, so I can work on that, but I gotta run. I got some things I need to take care of. But hopefully I can have that done in the next couple of weeks, or definitely at least by the next meeting.
Yep.
And I don't know if there's like a general email or something for everybody can kind of put their thoughts in about things that.
Yeah.
Important.
This I think, or just email it to me and then I'll send it out to everyone. I'll just copy it out to everyone.
Okay. I mean, like, well, just or maybe everybody can kind of send you the ideas that they have about, all the different things that make us feel unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I can kind of work that in as well, however y'all want to do it.
Yeah, that sounds great. And then we can discuss it then at the next meeting.
Okay. Well, I gotta go. I'll talk to y'all later.
Okay. Thanks, Adrian.
Bye.
Yeah. So kind of shifting back to the draft principles of transportation space usage. So we've kind of gone back and forth on this, where we have a list of prioritizations. I'm hesitant to take any action without everyone here. So Lizzie's not here. So maybe what we can do is folks can kind of take another look at this, and then ideally we can lock this down for next time. So that because I think this will be very useful to have like one document that we can continue to refer to as to say like, hey, in any project, these are the things that we need. Like first we need like great sidewalks, then we need like dedicated transit infrastructure, then we need ADA specific PUDO, etc. So I dropped that in the chat. So folks can kind of take a look at it and continue to noodle over that, and hopefully we can solidify this for next time. Does that sound good to folks?
I think that'd be great, Karthik. I'm wondering if maybe a reminder email in like a week or two, just because Liz isn't here, and we'd love to get her feedback on it too, and others.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think so. I've also got a few letters. So basically, just wanted to. So what I'll do is we passed the two resolutions, one on capital projects and one on daylighting. I've written letters that basically that kind of give more context, state the resolutions, but then also give more context. I'll send those letters out to the appropriate people on at DDOT. But one question was for folks: do you think those letters should also go to the Transportation Committee on Council? On City Council, to make them aware of the resolutions? I didn't know, so I wanted to kind of get your thoughts as to whether we should include them or not.
I think so. What do others think? I think the more awareness, and is there, I guess I'm wondering if there's council members focused on disability, maybe whoever covers the Office of Disability Rights.
Yeah.
I don't know who is oversight there too.
That's a good question. So, Office of Disability Rights, are they? That's a good question. I can find that out.
And there's also I think there's a separate mayor's office for blind and visual impairment, and I don't know if who their oversight is. Olivia, maybe you know?
Yeah, go for it, Olivia.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Hold on. Sorry. No, it's not for blindness. I believe it's for deaf, blind, and deaf, like hard of hearing,
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
I wish there was. I'd love to work for that if there was, but there is not that I know about anyway.
Okay.
But I'll find out, and if there is, I'll definitely let you know. And
But even flagging for that group could be good, right?
yeah, I think so. And when you're done with this meeting, can someone tell me what I need to do to hopefully fill one of the other two slots?
Yeah, totally. I'm going to respond to you. So Kelly sent me an email copying you. I'm going to respond to everyone with the process. That would be great.
Okay. How long do you think that'll take to happen? Because I want to be involved. I wish I'd known about this years ago. Thank you, Kelly, for telling me.
Yeah, me too. That's the one. Okay, just don't quit. Like, in the sense that, like, so things at MODA, like, there's a mayor's office of talent and appointments. So once you're in the system, and I know you're in the system, I'll call them basically, like, and keep bugging them, and then then eventually they'll like do it. So, so that's how.
Okay. For I know it's the city. It takes, I know a lot of people that work for MPD and DDS, and it takes a while. We won't quit. We'll get it done.
Yeah. So, yes. Yeah, so it's a form, and then they'll have then they'll set up an interview with you, and then yeah, like, and then there's a swearing in. So sometimes there's like big gaps between those, but if I know that you're in the pipeline, then I can move you. I can move you along. I can like essentially just like keep reminding them that you're in the pipeline.
Okay.
So,
Perfect. I'll take care of my part, just ASAP, and then I'll get with you and we'll get it done.
cool. Yes, and so I think so we've talked about transportation use. Oh yeah. So then maybe should we just then send it to all of the council members? That way we can cover all of the committees.
I think I would just send it to all of them. Like, I know mine is Matt Fruman, and his chief of staff is pretty responsive. I don't know about him personally, but
Cool.
Can't hurt.
One more time.
It can't hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually think that's a good idea, because I'm sure that accessible residents live in every single ward across our city. So I think bringing the awareness that these are their constituents.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. Great. So I'll send. Yeah. So we've got 2 letters. I'll send those letters out in draft if you guys want to take a look at it, if you want any changes. I'll send those to one letter for capital projects, and then the other letter for daylighting, and then kind of future letters as we pass more resolutions. But now I think we've got a good process. Cool. So I think that is kind of all that I had on my agenda, but I'll kind of open it up for broader conversation. Anything else that folks want to talk about?
This is Zach. I just want to mention Lakeisha did circulate the capital projects letter to the chiefs, to the director. I'd love to work with the MAC to sort of flesh out what that looks like in terms of input and feedback. I think the prioritization and the principles would really sort of help us understand what it is you're looking at or considering rather. But yeah, just in terms of reviewing all of the capital projects, is it something like we could provide or place sort of the concepts and maybe design materials in a location? Would you be able to review it and provide feedback? Because we're doing that for the public, but I think this sort of prompts us to make sure that these materials are up to date. So I guess that's just where we're sort of figuring out.
Yeah.
I know the chiefs we're literally just got an email about what that would look like, and is it, making sure that we have at least a presentation on a capital project. I guess we're trying to all wrap our head around what that input and feedback looks like. So if there's any, further like guidance, we can definitely like talk about it and work it out.
If there's just like an internal document, like on kind of, so maybe we can just start with a list of like, these are the capital projects, and like that's probably a good place to start. Of like, these are all the capital projects that are currently not done or are in kind of various planning stages, and then then ideally just like kind of whatever document there is that can be shared that kind of describes the capital project, and then we can go from there. Ideally, it's just like on a website somewhere, or they can just send out kind of emails with the documents to us, however that works.
And I guess thinking about the next step, how would they like to receive questions? would they want to come, talk with us?
Yeah. Maybe for kind
Yeah.
of particularly for ones that are particularly sticky, where like it's where we really want to emphasize, like then maybe we can invite the person to a meeting, or the kind of the project manager to a meeting. Or if our kind of feedback is very straightforward, then we can where we can just kind of write a summary of our recommendations and just send them back.
I think we're gonna have to be creative and working together to figure that out, Zach.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate the letter, and I think I'll speak for myself. Yes, this is a good thing, but it is tricky just in terms of the number of projects that we have, and then your time is limited. So what the most efficient way, I think, is always helpful.
So I think maybe just a start is just getting a list of all of the projects, and just like a kind of one sentence on, like, this is one sentence on what the project is, like what stage it's in, and maybe the budget or something. Like maybe that just a list of those, I think it's probably a good start, and then we can dig in from there. Cool.
It'll be fun. We won't be bored.
Yeah, we won't be bored. Cool. All right, cool. So then, then we can just have the kind of ongoing conversation from there. Cool. Anything else, anybody? Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody. I think we can go ahead and conclude the September 2024 MAAC meeting. We will see everybody in October, second Wednesday, 5:30.
Have a good one.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
See ya.
Bye.